on Facebook. Once again, 3D Politics Live. Tommy McCay, so excited to have all the kids back in the house tonight. All three Davids joining us. David Oldham, David Van, and David D'Ambroso out on the road. I'm Tommy McCay, your fine host, and David D'Ambroso is out there doing campaign stuff, winning by the skin of his teeth. David Van with SoonerPolitics.org and David Oldham with ConstitutionalGrounds.com. D'Ambroso, real quick before we get started tonight, because we got a packed show. Where you been? What have you been doing? You won your last battle, isn't that correct?
Yeah, we've been winning, and I'm not superstitious. I'm only a little stitious, as I say. So far, every campaign that I've worked on, we've won. But this one, I've had the unique distinction of being campaign manager on Rogers for Senate.
Right.
I'm my own worst critic, and I'm not happy that we only won by 1.3%.
Right.
I think we could have won by a lot more, and we're going to use those tactics in November to win by a lot more. But, honestly, the way we could look at it is perhaps we shouldn't have won at all because the establishment had their finger on the scale, those filthy rhinos, and we had out-of-state money to the tune of 5-1. We were outspent 5-1 on this race, and every institutional advantage to be had was had by our opponent. We won.
That's excellent.
We made the Persians. We made Xerxes bleed, so to speak.
That's a great job. We're glad to have you back for tonight's show. Here's what we've got lined up for everybody to comment on. YouTube loves some gun possession as long as it's got sufficient melanin, of course. Election fraud or nothing to see here. Move along. We also have the Senate Freedom Index champions that has come out. This is some great news to be able to index your champion freedom people. Mayor Bynum and other mayors around the state and really over the nation, people everywhere are capitulating to the bureaucrats on the mask. We're going to talk about that. Also, the freedom wins in Illinois. In the Illinois court, the governor did not appeal. And so that's what I feel like I'd like to go with. If anybody has anything else, we'll certainly throw it into the mix. But tell us about the gun possession and YouTube, David Van.
Yeah, let me pull this up. I tell you, we had Adrian Otap reported Saturday from at the state capitol. There was kind of a militia group that was concerned about the statues, and they hung out there because they'd heard, they might be trying to topple statues at the seat of government, our state capitol campus, and right. So he was there having a nice talk with some people, and he talked about what happened 2 weeks ago. Actually, the Black Panthers help organize an event, and it was, the funny thing is, he went 2 hours, and there was not a single hitch with YouTube showing these people live, shutting down streets without permits or anything like that. And then yesterday, they shut them down within 5 minutes. What's the difference? And the difference seems to be the color of the skin. It was mostly a white militia group that got shut down because it was a mother and a dad with their puppy and their little boy. And dad's got a rifle slung over his shoulder. It's fine there, but that's not allowed. But if I could, I want to go ahead and share with you just a little bit.
And where is this happening again?
Well, both of these were in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
And
it's tolerance. That's why, you have whatever you allow. We tolerate it. So why wouldn't it continue? We're going to say, oh, bad.
Tom, you got to enable sharing. You got to enable sharing tonight.
So. Try that.
Anyway, it is the craziest thing. So let me just show you just a little bit of what we're talking about here. And, there is, a couple hundred people on this. And listen, there are a lot of guys of lighter color tones of beige there supporting them. But it was mostly black community carrying guns. open carry, lawful. The only thing unlawful here is they are, there's a sidewalk there. They're choosing to walk down the middle of both lanes of the street. And that, that under normal conditions, that ought to get you a fine, right? But that's not the way it is. And I'm wondering
the law
why.
only applies to conservatives when it's pointed against, leftists get to break the law at an unlimited clip because we've allowed it. I mean, we still haven't held anyone accountable from Benghazi or for the illegal actions of Eric Holder's DOJ going after journalists. We've never held a Lois Lerner, anyone in the IRS accountable.
There you see a family with their kids and dogs. They got signs, but dad's got one of those ugly guns over his. And mom's even packing a sidearm. See, so that's where they got shut down, showing this all-American family, but they weren't as dark skinned.
Okay, so I see the comparison. Here's this white-ish family that gets shut down within 5 minutes, whereas other people that are literally breaking the law and they're on a different gradient scale of the contrast.
So
we gotta hack the system. Maybe I need to run a patriotic, totally legal rally. We'll see how long it takes them to shut me down.
I wish I had it ready here. I shut down the other computer, but I made a nice meme. Guy with a black T-shirt, and it's got that YouTube label. It's a red square with the white triangle, the typical YouTube. And it's got superimposed over. It says, banned for violating Google's political agenda. Because, folks, that's what we're dealing with here. This isn't about lawlessness. This isn't about community standards of decency as defined by obscenity laws or anything like that. Nobody's getting harmed here. There's, it's just...
Yeah, in the art world, the contrast range from black to white is a carefully, scientifically figured out gradient scale.
Yeah.
And so, 5 is between 0 to 10, you go from totally black to totally white, and 5 is right there in the middle. And so because we know that in Africa, the brown people have a problem with the more browner people, and they do argue about racial tensions even in Africa over who's more black, essentially. So what I need to know is, where is brown on the grayscale?
Well, first of all, Tom, you're completely incorrect.
Thank you.
Because what I learned in social studies and socialist school, where I was socialized, is that Africa is a perfect utopia. And there are no problems there where there are not white people. Yeah,
my daughter's lying to me.
Were the problem. So, I heard that South Africa was the worst country in Africa because there are too many white people. I don't know. What have you heard?
Yeah. So I just want to put a plug. One of the things that happened there, and if you go to E Pluribus OTAP, Adrian OTAP, who does a lot of citizen journalism, catching a lot of live events. Another fellow I met is he's got a great YouTube channel. Is Aircraft Sparky goes by. Aircraft Sparky was sitting down under the shade tree on a park bench there by the Capitol with a member of Black Lives Matter organization, and he's all decked out in stereotypical garb that they do. But the two guys, were having this great conversation. Adrian Otap caught it, and it's on film. It was the most high-level conversation I've seen. And when they finished up, these two guys shook hands and both went their ways. In this current agenda, this current, over the last month, I've never seen out at a protest, two sides sit down and actually not try to shout down the other person's reality, but just listen. And they found out they both agreed on so many things. It shocked them how much they had agreed on.
It was just maybe a year ago, or maybe a little more or less, depending on your frame of reference, the absolute truth argument. Oh, no, you can't be right because everybody has their own truth. That thing's out the window. Everybody's absolute truth is totally gone.
Yeah.
And I was wanted to bring back in something that D'Ambroso said. It seemed like a real reach to start talking about Eric Holder and Benghazi, et cetera. But this is the ongoing lawlessness that we all hate. It's arbitrary enforcement. Sometimes they enforce the law. Sometimes they don't enforce the law.
It's all connected. We like to compartmentalize this stuff as if it came out of the vacuum of space.
Right.
From the other side of the universe, it just snapped into being. No, it's connected to over 100 years of capitulation and the fact that we, as conservatives, as Christians, have never, ever held the left accountable. When they hold us accountable to the absolute letter of the law, we give them infinite.
We're polite gentlemen.
So,
Van has something.
Here's the takeaway on this. And Oldham and I, when we were at the Trump rally outside, and there was the riot police there, and we were standing next to the guys from InfoWars and just watching this protest. It was already a shut down street. It was shut down by our own police department. So these protesters were not in violation of any law. And Oldham and I, were talking to, the guy, InfoWars people said, this is actually constitutionally protected activity. It may not be my political agenda or the thing that gets me worked up, but I have to support it. And I want to say, with the march of the Black Open Carry March, a lot of white folk there that were saying, yes, you need to exert your Second Amendment rights.
Well, of course we support it. We support it when they openly break the law. So of course we support it when they lawfully assemble.
Oldham, what do you got?
And I would say yes, when they lawfully assemble. They did at the Trump rally end up illegally shutting down that gate because they packed in that street.
Yes.
The police.
It was just a little bit of illegal activity, Oldham. Give them a break.
The thing is that they should have pushed them back out so people could get in.
Yeah.
They could keep everything up, but they needed to be back away from and make it so. And if you notice, some of the video and some of the pictures were them pushed up against the fence,
right?
Which when we were there together, they were still 100 feet away from, or 150 feet away from, but they were still shutting down the access, the ingress egress.
Okay, but my point, Dave, we're trying to get out of this is that
Well, Van's trying to get out of this.
the redress of grievance, the fact that the peaceable assembly, and that we have to support those things, we just can't allow fudging on the other laing for them that you and I don't get to do in daily life.
Correct.
Like walk down an interstate.
It should be the same thing that we should have for our police. We will support them insofar as they support the Constitution. So if they want peaceful redress of grievance, peaceful assembly, as long as it stays peaceful, we support them. Beyond that, no, we can't.
So back again to the arbitrary enforcement of law. What happened
to hit on here, and here's the main thread. I like the big picture stuff because, you look at the way they hold us accountable, right? So the way conservatives are held accountable is your gun that you've been entrapped to buy by the FBI is a quarter-inch too short, Ruby Ridge. So they come and they murder your family. And then they say, we're real sorry. And Hillary Clinton can literally run illegal guns to ISIS in Syria and Benghazi and kill American citizens doing so and just say, I don't recall. Eric Holder can run guns in Fast and Furious to Mexican drug cartels that kill over 5,000 Mexicans and can kill Americans, and no one ever holds them accountable. But as soon as you say something that they don't like, they're going to ruin your lives. And I'm telling you, here's the strategy. Here's what we do. Rather than just reporting on it and saying, oh, woe are we, it's time that we start to get intolerant. That's why they brainwashed us and government education to have this tolerance. Well, they're the most intolerant people ever. Oh, and they've been winning for 120 years. Who am I talking about? The left. You can't hold a single opinion they don't like, or they'll run you out of business. You can't do a single thing they don't like, or they're going to put you in prison and throw the book at you. But we say, no, it's fine. And that's how you win. You become intolerant. And I'm telling you, a generation of people is rising up, a multi-generational movement, but we are totally intolerant of this leftism. I mean, it's the come and take it group.
Hey, if
love
you're
it.
just tuning in, you're listening to a rant by David D'Ambroso.
See,
One of the-
Tom,
yeah.
he's been gone too long. He's stored
He's
it up
all
too
pent
long.
up. He's all pent up.
Man,
But I
mean,
love.
there's just so much happening. You know, I talked to Trump's campaign manager at the rally. I haven't told many people about that. I'm not telling you our conversation until afterwards. There's a lot of stuff happening. It's not about talk. It's about action. It's about knocking on tens of thousands of doors. It's about creating political software. It's about moving the needle and winning for candidates. It's about getting the attention of the establishment and saying, no, we're not going along with your losing anymore. We're winning. And if it hurts your feelings, we don't care.
Okay, so that's some great philosophy. Let's talk about where the rubber meets the road. We had a GOP, a licensed event at Veterans Park last year, and when it was being disturbed by Antifa, the police stood at the top of the hill. Seeing that it was being disturbed, we talked to them after they stood down. Tulsa police stood down to not protect our licensed event at Veterans Park being disturbed by people. And when I asked them why didn't they come help us out? They weren't sure. They said who was causing the problem. They watched the battle, but instead of coming down there, and this leads me to my other point, but that I haven't made yet, and that is they do not fight crime, they manage crime. They don't fight poverty, they manage poverty. If you make cookies and bake cake and sandwiches and go down to the day center for the homeless, they won't let you feed the poor. It's got to be state sanctioned. The management of poverty is what happens by the state. They don't fight poverty, they manage poverty, and the same thing's happening with crime. We're watching all of these fine pieces of art get ripped down, and we're talking about the corporate structure. And so there was an artist that built that thing. That is individual expression through art that the iconoclasts are crushing, and we're seeing this laying down of their arms by the Tulsa police, even for people having a licensed party at the park, okay? So how do you fight back on that, D'Ambroso?
You managed my energy on that rant there. It was a fine rant.
I just spun right off of you there.
Excellent points. Well, you look at it. You're about to go to jail for going to work because you're violating the shelter-in-place order. Okay, you're about to do, but the rioters, right? Where's the call line to report rioters? There's a call line to report your neighbor for not wearing a mask or standing too close to a family member. But there's no call line right for rioters that will be listened to. You call 911 and it doesn't work, and you're absolutely right. The state and the left are in the business of managing crime.
To quote Trump, you get arrested for going to church, but not for burning down the church.
Yes. Hey, I'm going to have to reset us to make sure people who've just joined in know what we're talking about. We really have barely scratched the surface, but we've certainly flown a lot of kite string out there. Tommy McCay with 3D Politics every Monday night right here on Facebook. I've got David Oldham, constitutionalgrounds.com, and David Van from soonerpolitics.org. And tonight, back again, David D'Ambroso joining us from out on the road. We have been all the way around the block and back down again. I just got to say, to bring up the magic words, the George Floyd death, it's not.
It was COVID.
It's not a racial problem. It's an indiscriminate, arbitrary enforcement of the law. It equals all these other things that are arbitrary enforcements, from the bigger issues like Ruby Ridge to the smaller issues like our little party at Veterans Park. If the police are going to fight crime, they should fight crime. But because they manage crime, they pick winners and losers for criminals.
Yep. And it's not their fault. It's the fault of their bosses and bureaucrats. You know, they have far too many laws to enforce. Listen, if you really want there to be fewer instances of police brutality or even crimes committed against citizenry, you need to limit the number of laws. And we've got a real problem when the Supreme Court, any circuit court, the entire panel of judges cannot tell you how many laws there are. And, of course, ignorance of the law is no defense. So there are laws that you are breaking right now that you're ignorant of. Why? Because there's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of laws that no legal body or group of legal professors can even give you the number of laws, much less what those laws are. Yeah, so we've got to reduce our laws back to a constitutional balance.
I agree with you, D'Ambroso, that we have to limit the number of laws. But remember, ignorance of the law is no excuse, and so therefore nobody is excused from knowing the supreme law, which is really really basic and simple. And therefore the cops are responsible for what they're doing. I mean, we just had a tragedy over the last week, just 1 week ago today. And I beg anybody, I mean, I've heard all week long, oh, they're protecting Tulsa. And I would ask this question, from what? and because I can't find anything that the police did that night that was actually lawful. It was in statute, yes,
Well,
but not one thing that they
tell
did.
me this,
was
Oldham.
constitutional.
Is this true? You know, I've heard some analysis and referencing to a Supreme Court case that the police do not have a duty to protect you. They only have a duty to enforce these laws. Is that true, according to the Supreme Court?
Well, the Supreme Court says all sorts of things that's bad, and they have said that. But the thing is that if
That would be a yes,
nobody
D'Ambroso.
well, if nobody can
Thanks, Tom.
if nobody can answer that they were actually protecting somebody, they weren't even protecting you. All they were doing was
Right. And my point is it comes down to the citizen to protect themselves, which is why the Second Amendment is just so important. It's just it's vital. That's why it's number 2.
But here's the problem. How many people have been supporting somebody who actually stood up and used his Second Amendment right and used it, but he's been vilified all week long.
Do we talk about the pink polo man, the pink polo Revolutionary Guard, and his wife out in Missouri?
I think we're
talking about the fellow who stopped because he owed taxes, and on the spot they wanted to take his car away from him. And
last Monday morning here in Tulsa.
And it got violent. They got violent with him, and he got violent back. And one of them's dead. The other's still in the hospital. You know, and
it's a shame.
In my take on it, just for those who weren't here last week, but look up last week's show. We went into detail there. Do we really want our cops to become our tax collectors? Because we're making them sheriff of Nottingham when they start impounding cars, say, well, that tag's expired. They don't do it with other taxes, so this is a problem. I'm blaming the legislature, Tom.
I hear you. It's amazing how many people only look at the surface headlines. They don't turn over one rock to see how things play out. And it may be a great law to wash your hand. It may be a great rule of thumb, pun intended, to wash your hands.
You got to fight them in court. You can't shoot police officers. I think it's one matter if they're kicking down your door in the middle of the night and you don't know who they are.
Hello, you can't shoot anybody. You can't shoot anybody.
No, you can shoot people that are threatening your life. Sure.
But you can shoot anybody who's threatening your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we've been
don't shoot cops that are enforcing illegal, unconstitutional laws. We've got a court system to redress that. I mean, it's not justifiable to say they're collecting a tax bill. And I agree with you on that point, too. We shouldn't be using our law enforcement to collect tax bills. We're putting them in unnecessary danger.
We could go back to last summer, what happened in Texas, where a cop literally was sneaking in somebody's backyard and peeking in their window. Yeah. And the woman...
No, another one.
The woman just saw was a prowler out there in the dark, so she took her gun out, and the cop shot her, killed her in her bedroom.
Yeah, we've got to stop that. I think that's bipartisan. That's bipartisan support to stop these secret raids, right? Where you don't know if it's law enforcement or murderer.
Yep.
The common denominator are the words. They are arbitrarily enforcing laws. Sometimes they break into your house. Sometimes they don't. It's willy-nilly. Sometimes the cops will come save you when you're having a party at Veterans Park. Sometimes they just stand at the top of the hill and say, look, there's a fight going on, but we're not sure who's causing the trouble.
Yeah, I want to know about
why am I
on
paying
these
taxes?
Human trafficking pedophile rings. How come these pedophiles and human traffickers aren't getting shot in the bed?
It's like an episode of South Park.
They're connected to the Clinton, Biden, Epstein power cartel, right? I mean, how many times
I don't know how to
these guys
tie
go
that one in,
Lolita
Brozo.
Hall?
Yeah,
How many
let's
times?
reset,
Hey,
Tom.
I'll tell you what, we're going to move on to the election fraud or nothing to see here. Move along, kids. I'm Tommy McCay, your fine host for 3D Politics Live every Monday night on Facebook. Right here, I've got David D'Ambroso out on the road, David Van, SoonerPolitics.org, and David Oldham from ConstitutionalGrounds.com.
Yep.
Now, what is it about the election fraud, David Van, that you're bringing us about? What are we looking past?
Okay, here's the real simple thing. I've got it here. I worked hard. Tom, you and I did a watch party on Zoom Tuesday night. For those
That's right. That's
who
right.
were part of it, I'm glad you were here. But let's take a look at this. Now, you're going to see 3 pie graphs.
Okay.
The mail-in, that's over here on your left. Those mail-in ones, look at that, went more than 80% in favor of the state question 602. That is to take your money to pay their medical bills, okay? They now have a constitutional right to take your money to pay their medical bills according to our state constitution. And I know Oldham has things to say about that, but let me finish this. Okay, the early voting was actually pretty close, 55-45, for the state question 802. But look at the massive numbers of election day. It only got 45%. So what I'm trying to say here is, how do you get 80% on these unseen voters who just mail in ballots, and yet the rest of the state is only 45? If that doesn't look like it's worthy of investigation, what is?
Well, what does it matter, Van? No one's going to do anything about it, right? Take one out of the Republican playbook for 100 years. Oh, wow, unusual activity. We lost again. No problem.
I want to hear what Oldham has to say, and then I got a statement.
A doozy.
Well,
No,
there's
just a
nothing
statement.
new here. I mean, I can't believe those numbers on the mail-ins are 100% legitimate. I mean,
Right.
it's possible, but I haven't seen anything where those are the kinds of numbers
Thank you.
that we could have expected.
Right.
I would have expected them to be a lot closer to each other,
And
even
we don't.
with COVID.
Okay, 2 years ago when we had 788 on the ballot, which brought a lot, we still didn't have that kind of lopsidedness.
Correct.
So here's the point: because it's 80,000 or 94,000 votes, if 10% of those are invalid that were in favor of it, then it flips it.
Right.
Because at 80% of 10,000 is 8,000, it only won by 6,400. So,
Right.
Boom, there it is. And now here's the thing I want to talk about since Wednesday morning. Pat Campbell, is big on this story, asking a lot of people, what do you think about David Van said at Sooner Politics on this, and stuff. In fact, today, Pat wanted me to come on and talk about it. There's 2 narratives here, because some folks in Oklahoma City have organized citizens to call the Attorney General's office. And the report is they're being told, oh, no, call your county election board. Don't bother us. Call the county election board. Well, Jonathan Smalls knows about this with OCPA. John Tidwell with AFP, who organized the vote no. Neither of them are saying anything. Neither is the governor. Neither is the attorney general, nor the election board secretary. Their silence means one of 2 things. Either they're ignoring this, nothing to see here, move along, folks, we're going to pretend there's not a problem, or they are wanting to keep as quiet as they can because they are going after people. There may be a secret grand jury, there may be indictments, there may be arrests. It could blow this thing sky high. I think it's one of those 2 things, and they're pretty extreme. I don't think there's any
Could be a third thing. It's not necessarily one of 2 things.
What?
Dang it.
Oh, no, I'm just saying it's just a logical fallacy to say it must be one or the other.
Okay, I thought
let me clarify.
Okay.
The silence, I think, those are the 2 plausible ideas I have for the silence.
All right, we got a house full of contrarians, but Oldham, what do you got on that
Well,
one?
I was just going to say, if we have, remember, every issuance of a of a mail-in ballot that then comes back and is fraudulent represents a felony, each and every single one of them. So if we have 10% of the ballot that's invalidated, we have
Hold your breath for those convictions,
8,000
Oldham.
felons. Well, it's, I mean, we've got to start.
They're coming.
We've got to start thinking about this, and this is how important it is. We would have as many as 8,000 felons who would participated. We have also the participation of notaries public, because I believe every single one of those mail-in ballots had to be notarized. And so my big question has been and continues to be, and we'll have to see about doing some research on this week, is how many different notaries were used in these 80,000 ballots.
Yeah.
And how many of them were the same ones and did hundreds? Because I thought there was a limit for a notary to do these kinds of certification.
But even if you press into the courts and you have some sort of appeal, they can just refuse to issue a ruling and dismiss the appeal like they did with Rick Hubbard.
It's more than that, though, Tom, is what this speaks to the national narrative going into the November elections. You can bet Trump is very interested in this. This is the narrative for stealing an election. It's not the Russian hocus pocus that they've been trying to sell us. I think that was a smoke screen because of what they were trying to do and have been doing, but now we're ramping up on a much bigger scale. Because the one thing we found out that's a weakness of our election system, it isn't the ballots, it's in the registration cards. You can mail in a registration, nobody ever sees you.
You mean the honor of the people running it? The card can't be dishonest. It's the people that aren't playing by the rules. They're not doing it correctly. They're lying.
I'm talking about the 25,
they lie.
The 25 people that supposedly live in the 2-bedroom house next to me on the election board. That's a scenario I'm throwing out there.
Yeah. I mean, the feds aren't even properly being stewards of our money and our vote and our representation. They just let it slide. Everything's
it's okay, Tom. We can trust him with more.
Am I over it?
No, elections are a state issue, Tom. They're not a federal issue.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, they are.
That's why we have to federalize elections, Van, to fix all of our
God,
problems.
no.
Whoops.
God, no.
Everything else we federalized works perfectly. No problems. Zero.
Yeah.
And for those who have forgotten, David D'Ambroso is very sarcastic when he's making a point.
He's back.
Oh, is that what that is?
Full bloom.
We
Wow.
have back in our midst.
Irony.
Yeah. All right.
Oh boy.
We
You need a daily dose of
iron.
iron, or you become anemic.
I have certain standards. Anyway, we're going to move on. Tommy McCay here, your fantastic host. Every Monday night, 7 p.m., David Oldham, David Van, David D'Ambroso, all three of the smartest Davids in Oklahoma. And we're moving on to the Senate Freedom Index. By golly,
You're correct, Tom. You did not say you had high standards. You said you had certain standards.
That's correct. That's correct. It's all about the meaning of words, which reminds me, too bad you reminded me, because I was all worried about your pie charts last time, and you were talking about certain mail-in votes and certain people who show up the day of the election. And I want to bring up the meaning of the word populism. Okay, so people they want this national popular vote. And so I'm saying, and they also want rank file voting. Okay, and so I'm saying if we're going to do populism and rank file voting, the fact is that if you're voting ahead of time, you are less involved as a populist than if you vote on the day. See what I'm saying? If you're involved in the election on the day of, you're more of a populist than if you mail in your ballot. So if we're going to go by popular vote, we have to devalue the mail-in votes and more highly value the people that show up the day of the party. That was a stretch, wasn't it?
Well,
all the way around.
I disagree with that one, but
well, yeah, that's how we do this around here. I say something, roll the dice. It's an 11. You say no, it's
Back on
not.
topic. What is this? What does this have to do with anything, Tom?
Nathan, we're back to the Senate. Well,
What are you talking about?
Van said something that made me say something. Senate Freedom Index champions. Tell us that. Of course,
The populism index. Yes.
The populism index. Thank you, D'Ambroso. Oh, show.
All right. So here's what came out late last night. Actually, it was just after midnight, early morning. This is two freshman senators, Newhouse and Adam Pugh. They have actually become champions of the Freedom Caucus in the House. And now Joe Newhouse is from the Tulsa area, and
a little bit of Broken Arrow too is in his district.
Yeah, that's right.
And Bixby, yeah.
And so here, let me just get this a little bit bigger so you guys can see the whole thing. And here's our scores, folks. Well, gosh, it's so anyway, we've got they've scored 85 each of them. They both actually authored a freedom bill, and you know what? We're just not going to have this thing working.
When they offer a freedom bill, that gets them an extra points on the Freedom Index. It raises their score.
Go back to that 2.6% mortgage rate. I'm intrigued.
So, and to add insult to injury, Tuesday night, remember one of the things, Tom, I was really intrigued by, Wayne Shaw got booted from the Senate. He was the incumbent, and it wasn't even close. And who beat him, Tom? Cowboy beat him.
Oh, Cowboy. Next time I run, I'm putting Cowboy in my name.
That's right. That'll get you.
Yes, sir.
Remember that, D'Ambroso, in your campaign consulting, is that you put Cowboy as your middle name.
I want to say, seriously, though, it's not so – I'm a philosopher, so it's not just about having the moniker. I'm not cheap and easy like Howie Mandel. It's not a cowboy. He has a nickname. No. If you are a dude who walks around and you tell people – my name is such and such, cowboy such and such, it's because you've got the testicles to walk around calling yourself something, cowboy something. I like a guy like that right off the bat.
Yeah, you can back it up.
That's correct.
But here's what happened. Wayne Shaw got booted, and then I ended up penalizing him another 10 points because Nathan Dahm and others had a whole bunch of bills to restore our gun rights that Wayne Shaw refused to hear in committee. Some of them didn't even pass the House.
What, is he a Democrat?
What's that?
Is he a Democrat?
No, he acts like one.
Oh, my gosh. Imagine my shock. You mean he's a Republican?
Oh, my God.
He's a Presbyterian minister, young man.
I love how the
man of the cloth.
He's marrying trans people to lampshades, right?
I'm a man of the cheesecloth. The Senate Freedom Index, this is what I love about the Senate Freedom Index, is that it does tightly follow like the stock market. I mean, it can change instantly and on a dime.
What I really want to hear about is the Trump Index, Van. Can we talk about that? What Donald Trump feels in his heart.
That's actually that's Al Gerhardt's. Al Gerhardt changed his to not from the Rhino Index. It's now the Trump Index.
I have to make fun of him a little bit. I have to make fun of him because I think his conceit is that he can know how Donald Trump feels about every single bill that comes up in the Oklahoma State Legislature, and then he rates people based on that set of assumptions.
Well, now you're getting ad hominem. He's got a committee that works with him on that. I'm not part of that. But,
I'm not ad hominem.
Hey, before you move on from ad hominem, I talked to a psychic the other day, and I told him I'm really into yoga, and he saw me owning my own yoga studio one day.
Yeah. Take a look at the index and give me something on that, D'Ambroso, okay? Find me something
on which one?
On the Trump Index. Find something solid, and we'll talk about it.
Did he release it this year?
Sure, a couple weeks ago.
Well, I'm only familiar with the premise of it, and tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think it's an ad hominem, but doesn't he just assume what President Trump would feel?
I don't think he
about
assumes.
The Oklahoma State legislators.
I think he researches his public position on issues.
So Trump has a public position on every single bill brought up in the Oklahoma State legislature? Or the 15 or 20 that Al picks?
I don't think anybody.
I highly doubt
have
it.
You seen the thousands of bills that are filed?
I could be wrong. No, I haven't, and I doubt the president has either.
Okay, I think this is just getting to be a dig on somebody who's not here to defend themselves.
All
not a
right, well,
dig on
maybe
Al.
it's okay if it is, and he's not here, and that's accurate too. And
But it's
and maybe,
speculative.
well,
It's all
maybe
speculative.
we can look at Al's writings, and if he does try to get into the mind of somebody he's writing about, we'll know that D'Ambroso knows
Yeah.
he's conjecturing.
Yeah, I'm asking the question.
It would be
I'm not
great if
sure.
maybe Al could come on, and we would just have him on the show.
You might do that.
That'd be
I like
fantastic.
talking to Al. He's a smart guy, but he likes to dig in and just say, no, you're wrong. And you're like, well, why? And then it's just kind of like game over.
It's okay to have something solid to push against or cling to. It's good to have these solid voices in Oklahoma, and we can clarify meaning. I think we all
And
want
Al won
freedom.
a great victory for our First Amendment, right? Telling people it's not extortion if you say, hey, I'm going to investigate you if you don't vote a certain way. I mean, well, that's free speech, right?
The way they ran him up the flagpole, like they did Rick Hubbard. I mean, I'm going to tell you, and D'Ambroso, you said this early on the show. All you do is stand up for your rights, carry out, and exercise your First Amendment, and pal, they'll just nail you.
Okay, that's twice that Rick Hubbard's been brought up. Do you have an update for us, D'Ambroso? You live in Broken Arrow, close by where he was arrested.
Rick contacted me, but during the election, so I haven't gotten back with him.
Okay,
I was actually hoping you guys would update me.
Okay, get us up to speed with the specifics. He was just walking in the park with a rifle slung over his shoulder, right?
Yeah, my understanding, I do understand the initial incident. So he uses an AR-15 pistol, kind of looks like an AR-15. Not a real important detail, but it's legal for him to carry. He had a license. And at this time, was this 18 or 19? I think constitutional carry had passed.
This was spring of last year, so they only have three more months to do something with it, or he walks.
Yeah, so essentially, someone felt threatened, and they called the police, and then that person's story changed.
Well, let me correct you there. The police claim somebody felt threatened. We don't have that info, do we?
Let me just give you some.
Allegedly. Well, no, they went to contact this person, and their story changed. So,
let me just give you an update. Looks like Rick Hubbard is on the Facebook Messenger right now, and he says the appeals court refused to issue a ruling and dismissed my appeal. Isn't that great? ? Sarcasm I inserted. FYI, he says, I go to jail for contempt, July 22. That's from Rick Hubbard on the 3D Politics message.
Oh, that's criminal. How can they throw away his appeal? I don't even understand how that's legal.
It's the Wizard of Oz. We go away, come back again later.
Rapists and murderers get appeals,
and they also get out because of COVID-19. I mean, it's totally arbitrary enforcement of the law.
Crime. I mean, he's been proven.
Arbitrary enforcement of the law, whether it's George Floyd, Rick Hubbard, or our party at Veterans Park, they're not doing anything they're supposed to do.
Well,
and then they're doing what they're not doing.
As you understand it, Van, because I think there are people that aren't familiar with Rick Hubbard's case. We only got halfway through it, so someone reported him. Long story short, allegedly, police come. No one has their body cam on. There are no dash cams on. Multiple police reporting. This takes place between 3 public facilities, across the street from where I grew up. There is a skate park with cameras triangulating him just yards away from where this happened. There's a fire station like just a 2-3 dozen yards away from this happened with cameras. There's no footage of. And there's a community center with dozens of feet away from where this happened, cameras pointing at. So we have well over 10, 15 cameras running. There's zero footage of it. All there is alleged instances of criminal wrongdoing against Rick Hubbard. 0.0% proof that he ever did anything wrong. And a judge took all of his guns and ammo as a condition for him to walk free. And apparently his appeal's been denied. I just want to know how any of this is legal. And I want the names of the judges. I want the names of the people that did this because they need to be unelected. And that's the action that goes the philosophy. We make these people famous. We take action. We tell the rhinos to shut up, that apologize for these folks, and we kick them out.
Oldham, what do you got?
Well, I was going to say there's nothing lawful about it. It's legal what they've done because there's statute. But again, remember, this is unconstitutional actions of government, and it's backed up by the judiciary. That's why you see his appeal tossed. there is no way that you can, unless there's some form. I'm thinking he was convicted of contempt somehow.
He will be on July 22. He
David
says
Mann brought up a great point once. There's no contempt of the Senate or contempt of the legislature or contempt of the executive. But these people wear robes and they think they're God all
of the court.
No. You guys miss it. There is no such thing as conviction of contempt. Contempt is just an arbitrary ruling of the judge that he says, I'm witness to you not following my edicts.
Right. It's a procedure law. It's a procedure crime. Here's Rick Hubbard again right now live on 3D Politics. They claim there's no claim because I haven't been, excuse me, negatively affected. I'm being forced to give the password to my phone for a blanket download or go to jail indefinitely for contempt. I'm going to jail.
Okay.
Oh my God, this is just.
So here's what's happening. So to bring everybody back up to speed, they wanted his phone to be able to get off of his phone what they wanted to make their case. So he refused, in light of the Fourth Amendment, his right to be secure in his person and to not incriminate himself. So he has refused to give up his password, which would only potentially tend to incriminate him.
Fourth and Fifth Amendment.
That's Fourth and Fifth Amendments. Go read them, please, folks. And so therefore,
judges, bureaucrats, here's a tip: read the Fourth and Fifth Amendments, please.
All right, Oldham, go on.
And so what has happened is the judge has ordered him to to forsake his Fourth and Fifth Amendments.
What's this judge's name?
Or else face contempt charges.
What's their name?
That we'll have to get that.
Rick, post in the chat. Tom, read it.
Yeah.
So
I'll do that because I want to, not because you told me to.
so
you got to do it.
Oh, God, no. Oh, no, I don't. I'm a contrarian. You can't stop me. Go ahead. Sorry, it's me and David.
Therefore, there is no conviction. He has not had his due process, but he's going to go to jail anyway without due process, all because a judge is playing prosecutor from the bench.
Here you go, ladies and gentlemen, just hot off the presses from Rick Hubbard live on 3D Politics Facebook, Judge Anthony Miller. And that's with one L, it looks like. M-I-L-E-R. Myler. Okay, Myler. I was only off by 5,400 feet.
And I want to say our Supreme Court plays this little weaselly game, and I'm going to call it a weaselly game, where they say that you don't have standing, or they say you don't actually have a claim of a harm done. Now think of that in this light. He would have to give them permission to hack into his phone, and then he could say, I had my constitutional rights damaged. And then they say, no, you gave them the password.
But they're going to hold you in contempt and put you in jail indefinitely if you don't give it to them. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. But let's go further than this, all right? Rick said he would give them all of the material voluntarily that pertained to this case, but he didn't want him to have messages between he and his wife or him and anyone else. But
it doesn't matter what it is.
Have all of this.
They promise we're going to use anything we find against you. Go ahead, Van. Sorry.
And that's the problem. They're going to go looking to find. It's called phishing.
Yeah.
Phishing.
But then they promise not to use it against them. But then, well, okay, if you're not going to use it, why have it then?
Exactly.
Why must you have it if you're not going to use it?
Yes.
But
privacy for privacy's sake is a constitutional right.
Qualified immunity.
Gosh.
We need to seriously look at ending qualified immunity, not for our police officers, but for these judges, for these politicians that violate our rights so wantonly until they're held criminally liable.
We are back to the auto-packed, action, excited 3D Politics I always longed for. All three Davids in the house together. It's like Dad having all his kids here. It's so much fun. And they fight and they love each other. And here we are with David Van from SoonerPolitics.org, David Oldham from ConstitutionalGrounds.com, and David D'Ambroso out there on the road fighting evil all by himself and with his team of cohorts.
Tom, I want to say thank you, Rick Hubbard, for stepping up. This is totally unscripted.
This dude is literally, we are off the rails totally. We're not, I mean.
But this is great stuff. And for the rest of you,
hold on.
stay tuned. Because we don't know. You don't know when we're going to bring up you as the subject.
Autocorrect gets us all. You can't type capitalist, it types corpuscle. Anthony Miller, okay, and I'm getting back and forth here with Rick right now, and he's cursing spell checker with me politely. Anthony Miller, Miller. And that's right. Because spell checker coming in over the ticker.
But that would be Anthony, a district court judge whom the legislature has the power to impeach. District court judges.
Well, is Tony a mob boss? Old Tone. We call him Old Tony. He's like a mob boss over here.
Anthony works in the courtroom.
Tony Miller.
So I
have to say, I just love the spirit of, the discussion.
Good.
No, I mean, it's nice to have
Tony.
this worked up about it because
that's what it takes, brother.
We really
exactly. I mean, how long have I been trying to get others to do it?
We got to get some finances behind Rick here. He can't just. I mean, he's the guy that's stepping up, and this is where Mommy.
I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to be talking to legislators. I'm going to be talking to soon-to-be Senator Cody Rogers about drafting the removal of Old Tony. And I want to make sure it happens after the COVID stimulus is over, so he doesn't pick up another $600 in unemployment.
My gosh,
right.
what a. So here we. All right,
0% sarcasm.
I just right. I just set us up. So here we go into the overarching concept of how the officials are selling out our representation to the health industry. Remember, it was just a few short years ago that Obama changed our relationship with the federal government where they could force us to participate in the activity of buying insurance. And so now we've just taken a giant leap forward for mankind, and everybody and their brother's mayor is going to tell you to wear a mask. And so Mayor Bynum has capitulated, bureaucrats in Edmond have capitulated, etc. And
They'll do more than tell you, Tom. They'll throw the law on you. They won't throw the law on looters, but they'll throw the law on you.
I have recognized that the mask is much like the tampon, and they're going to have to decide whether it is a safety device or a healthcare device, because we're going to control people according to their droplets, and we're going to start right now, okay? And we're just going to make sure that we understand that blood is more septic than mucus, and we just know that from what's called science. So if the left really want to push the agenda, we can start mandating that women can't leave the house 10 days a year till we check their panties for spotting. Then, do you need to take a break?
I mean, a month.
10 days a month, yes.
This rationality is important. We can never lose it. But these arguments, the political reality is not decided by who is right, facts, or rationality. It's determined by who acts, and the time to act is now.
Yeah.
We have to take back our country and our cities. And that's the only way to do it.
Yeah. And I tell you, the spineless people, especially at our municipal level, but even at the state level to some degree, they're so
Deborah
spineless.
Wimpy has to go. I'm going to say it again. Deborah Wimpy has to go.
Yeah.
That a little bit of just people throwing a fit, and all of a sudden they capitulate. Especially if if it fits their political narrative.
That's what Wimpy did. So Rhonda Smith and Lori Gracie did a wonderful presentation on why Broken Arrow should stay open. The city council and the mayor, Thurman, all agreed, wow, that's great, this makes sense. And then they caved to the mob, and within 24 hours went back on their word, closed down Broken Arrow, permanently put countless businesses out of business, and they violated. Show me, Oldham, where in the Constitution does the city council have rights to force you into unemployment, a third to 50% of the population? Where?
Well, that's an exercise for everyone else because I know where it is, and I beg everybody else to find it. And
Does the city council have that authority?
Well, because you'll find that it doesn't exist. So you'll have to read the whole thing to find out that it doesn't exist.
Well, they need to go. They need to go because they voted yes. And listen, I'm talking to rhinos right now. I'm talking to rhinos and a couple of non-rhinos, mostly rhinos. Oh, leave her alone. Don't be mean. Oh, it's just the Constitution. It's just something to be discarded as soon as we get a little flu. It's not even a top 10 killer. So she must go because of the damage that she's done is incalculable because it gives the leftists and rhinos ammunition to come and take more of our rights arbitrarily.
It normalizes the perversion. It normalizes the perversion.
Correct. Let's be clear.
No,
okay, hold on. Oldham. What do you got?
Okay.
Well, I wanted to say, in Oldham, you're going to get into the Edmund story here in a little bit, but I wanted to tie this in before you get to that, is that when our legislature enacted a statute, started with the governor calling a health emergency, which would empower the state's health official, whoever that is. I mean, this is how it works. And I know, Oldham, you have problems with it, but stay with me. This is a different point, is that it says, okay, the legislature has to approve. The governor doesn't get to just declare it and then all of a sudden he can take these powers. Legislature says, okay, we're giving you 30 days, and here are your new best friends who are going to be looking over your shoulder for the next 30 days. We get to pick who those people are, and then in 30 days, all of your special powers are gone. You got to come back and start over again.
Now, how does this apply to the city council and the mayor? Do they have such powers?
Here's where I'm getting at. Now let's contrast that. What Mayor Bynum said is that he wants to work with our city council to make permanent rules. In other words, no deadline, which means next winter it's going to be the next flu outbreak, which will justify expending it. It'll never end, folks. It'll never end.
And I want to get Oldham's feedback on this, and this is quoting from Mayor G.T. Bynum from the COVID-19 briefing, whenever it was when it was. So here he says, this is a partial excerpt, and this is from G.T. Bynum. And Oldham, I can't wait to hear your response, because this is how they're going to enforce their tyranny on what Van's just talking about. First, he says, we are announcing a partnership with the Tulsa Health Department to create a safety plan certification program. Oh, it's a safety plan certification program. And I do too. Moving forward, organizations in the Tulsa Metro can develop a safety plan for your facility and then present it to the staff at the Tulsa Health Department for their review. Department staff will review plans and either suggest improvements or approve them. Isn't that awesome? And if the department certifies an organization's safety plan, they will be able to tell their clients or congregants, because now he's talking about the church.
Right. That's right.
That they have certified safety plan. Now, we don't believe in Jesus anymore. We believe in
They shut down churches, didn't they?
G.T. Bynum's certified plan. Is Jesus certified by G.T. Bynum?
Ken Reddick's got to win that race.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I don't want to be partisan, but yeah, Ken Reddick.
All right.
I don't want to come out against Democrat G.T. Bynum.
But yeah, Ken Reddick.
We're on this pandemic thing. Oldham, what's going on in the rest of the state?
Well, actually, it's interesting because we're about ready to lose the even epidemic proportions. I just read today the CDC is saying if the numbers drop even just a little bit more, even the epidemic, we haven't ever even reached numbers that qualify this to be a pandemic. And so the numbers, just talking numbers, they don't have any case for what they're doing, and declaring all these things.
Right.
But I'll call it because I think Matt Moore is done, but I'm making an announcement here. I am writing a book. I believe Matt Moore has just secured the ISBN number for me It's called COVID 1984, and it's on these topics. But please continue.
Oh, good.
Shit.
The so what has happened is now we have the resurgence of COVID in Oklahoma supposedly, and so now Oklahoma City has now.
I'm driving by piles of dead people here on 71st Street. It's real, guys. They're just stacking them in the street and burning them.
Come on, Oldham.
So, Oklahoma City has now enacted a mask requirement for your bars and restaurants
Right.
in Oklahoma City
Right.
for the workers alone, but you will see where things go. They're going to revisit that in 2 weeks and find out. That came out on the 2nd.
Right.
Edmond today was meeting to discuss, and they had a rumor going around that they were going to require such a thing. They are saying no, we're not going to do that today,
Right.
but they have left it open that they may in the future, and they've already done it. So, and then now as we are talking, GT here in Tulsa is talking about doing that. Broken Arrow has not mentioned anything like that, and I don't know all the other states. But
Well, Broken Arrow got scared into religion on this, I think. The city
think so,
council's a little scared.
because they have been, and rightly so, and they have also noticed that by being more lenient, as it were, not riding the heavy hand, they've actually gotten a lot more business because businesses come to Broken Arrow.
What a shocker, not shutting down businesses
Oh
by
my
fiat
God.
allows for more business.
Who would have
Yeah, no.
thought?
You were saying, Oldham, before you got cut off earlier, you're saying you're talking about the constitutional authority that the city council and mayors have to force citizenry into unemployment and to shelter in place indefinitely for
Correct.
what is essentially no different than the flu. What is that?
Absolutely none. And
None,
here's something else, and it just came up today. I was working out and about, and this gal and I got into this typical conversation. She's forced to wear a mask, and I showed up without one. It was in the car, but they didn't have a problem with it. And she ended up telling me that she believes she has a sinus infection and deep respiratory infection and sores, cold sores around right where her mouth is, all because of her mask. And
Oh,
she's
wow.
absolutely
Yeah.
convinced.
Oh, yeah.
And it tends to clear on the days she is off, but then comes back because she's forced to wear this
So
Right.
she's
hours
got
per day.
she's got herpes from this mask.
Yes, cold sores. And
David?
she is now actually on.
I'm not lying, Tom.
No, it's not. I mean, that's cold sores is a herpes zoster.
Simplex
And
one.
So the whole point is that these things now we're now able to start seeing that these employees have, and I don't know if you've seen the YouTube videos of the guys that take the OSHA monitor, the closed space oxygen NOx monitor, the noxious fumes monitors, and they test without they test it without the
Hold
mask
on.
and with the mask.
The cat lady at Snopes told me that's fake news, David.
Oh, is it really? Okay. Well, the thing is that the
Yeah,
ox
you get just
monitor-
as much oxygen wearing a mask or a blanket over your face or a chloroform rag as you do without one. That's what Snopes told me. So it's just science. You just have to learn about facts.
Science. I'm for science.
Is the cat lady still there? Or is that just her
Oh,
husband?
guys, I've got breaking news.
Uh-oh.
This is how long COVID is going to last. Calvin says so.
Is it November 3rd or 4th?
Shit. Now Van's doing punchlines.
That's right. It'll last as long as it
Oh my
Democrats
gosh,
need
that's
it to.
good. Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Calvin won the internet.
You know, going back to it, the rhinos are so much more dangerous than Democrats. At least we know they're in the foxhole across from us shooting us. A rhino will just shoot you in the back or stab you. I mean, they give so much cover to the Dems. We need a purging of our party. And I'm not kidding.
No, that's true.
I'm
Hey,
going to institute this effort. They need to
how-
go to the other side. or shut up.
Oldham, and everybody, how do we fix the problem I ran against in 2016 where I couldn't even delineate my views against G.T. Bynum because he was so purple? You know, there he was, all bipartisan, nonpartisan. And I'm like, I sure would like to be able to say what I am so that I could gather my team. But otherwise,
He's transpolitical.
I mean, he's like Nicolas Cage. You just stand there and project whatever you think onto him.
Well, I think we need to. I think it comes down to being the constitutional candidate. Personally,
But how do we fix the nonpartisan thing in Tulsa? I mean, it's a nonpartisan. It's by
You were talking about
it's
with
nonpartisan.
BLM.
No, I don't think you have to worry about that at all. I think what you have to do is you have to be able to explain how liberty will be better for each and every individual, no matter their station in life, whether they're making money off of, ill-gotten government.
All right,
gains.
Van, what's your
I don't care
comment?
about that.
Well, yeah, I asked Dewey Bartlett, a week before the election, back in 16. You might have been. It was at the Terra meeting. Well, actually, I think Medlock said to him, Chris Medlock, former mayoral candidate himself and city councilor,
Right.
he said, why are we no longer partisan in the city races? And Dewey says, yeah, I don't know. And Sal,
Well, that
Because
copper-
it benefits Democrats.
listen, here it comes.
That was his answer.
The former Tulsa GOP chair, Sally Bell, said, oh, yes, you do. You were the one who pitched it to the city council 5 years ago, Dewey. And he says, oh, well, I guess I did.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
right.
Dewey, I wake up in a different place every 5 minutes. There's the kind
Old
of
Uncle
look on his
Dewey.
face.
Reboot.
It's
So I said, Dewey, I said, okay. I said, after the election, will you help us fix this? He said, yes. That was 4 years ago.
Yeah, I asked him for ice cream cone. He said, sure. I called him after he was on the air one time, and he used the phrase he wanted to be the job-gettingest mayor ever in Oklahoma. And I called him on the phone and actually talked to him in person. And I asked him point blank, when you said that phrase, job-gettingest mayor, is that something you just say? Because that's the things you say because you're DBJ and you just say that? Or did you plan that as something you were going to say? And sure enough, oh, no, that was something we planted, the job-gettingest. That's one of the most insulting
He's G.T.
things.
Bynum's uncle, and I think it shows, right? I think it shows
I
quite a
don't
bit.
know. I mean, I'm not cattle, and I don't vote that way. Job-gettingest just simply doesn't get to me. Anyway, I don't know. Job-gettingest, and that was a planned statement. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know.
We get this on to the next segment.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's me. Everything's off because Dan Broso's here. The vibe is so weird.
Hey, next week.
On the blame around.
You won't have to worry about it for months.
Oh, damn. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, next week's show, we've got some breaking. We're going to do our homework on it. Oldham and I are going to look at Supreme Court ruling. We had a unanimous one that affects his old job. Right now, Oldham is our current in office, or not really have any work to do. He is a presidential elector, aren't you, David?
Well, I was. I mean, that's a short term of office, but done in January of 2017.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I was, and I felt like a very, very much like a rubber stamp at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And now the Supreme Court is saying, yeah, everybody's going to be a rubber stamp, and the office is going to be nothing more than a rubber stamp.
So,
well, we've got to look into exactly how they did it.
We got to read the opinions.
Story next week. It just came out, broke today. There's actually something more important. I think we need to talk about courts, but we'll get to that. I don't know where Tom's at on our list.
The thing that I wanted to read to you guys real quickly, a paragraph, and see if you guys know where it comes from, and it applies to the Dr. Dart situation. I would be ticked off if I cast, back to G.T. Bynum before we go, I would be ticked off if I cast my vote for a city guy to lead the city, and then he stood up there and told me, well, I'm going to do what the county guy tells me to do. Why did I vote? Why did we divide the power in the first place if you're going to recombine them? I voted for G.T. Bynum to make decisions as a leader, but what he's telling me is Dr. Dart, an unelected bureaucrat, is going to tell me whether I got to live or die tonight. But I want to see if you guys know where this paragraph is from. Quote, unelected bureaucrats in the executive branch now write countless rules with the force of law and arbitrarily punish individuals who disobey those rules. The Constitution makes clear that these powers were granted to Congress by the people and must therefore remain solely with the people's elected representatives. 1,000 points to anybody who can guess where that's from.
Tom McCay said that literally just now.
No, it's not
Right
a trick
now.
question. It's not a trick question.
There's a couple places it probably came from, and I've heard the quote.
10 seconds.
But SCOTUS would have said it at one point.
Nice try. That is literally right out of the Republican National Convention. That is the platform of the Republican National Party.
I'm glad you brought that up because we've thrown that away, and it's time for this ideal to rise. I don't care about the detractors. I'm going to push forward as hard as I can on what David McClain promised me. And, you know, he's pushed hard in different things, and he has an ambitious agenda, and there's some things he might have to leave on the table, but this one, we just can't let him. Debates for every single candidate. Why? These issues will come up. These issues, it's not for the entire population to see the debate, but it'd be great if they would. It's really for the influencers and these groups like Terra and OK2A and TMRC and others to be educated, because what just happened right with my campaign is one reason we only won by a percentage point is the Rhino candidate. I'm not even going to name him. Here's a guy who praises socialist health care, loves
Right.
Question 802, supports it, gave $20,000 to Nancy Pelosi and says, quote, he doesn't like what guns do to people, and you wouldn't be so pro-Second Amendment if you saw what guns did to people like he does every day.
Oh, yeah.
This guy got the endorsement of Terra, Tulsa Men's Republican Group, and OK2A. When my candidate was superior.
No, he didn't. No, he
And
didn't.
912.
He got it from a select group of leaders, some of
In
the
those
leaders
groups,
of each
yeah.
of those groups.
And
Well,
but
well,
that-
the
even
endorsement.
that did not get communicated. It got communicated in such a way that even David thought it was, you know, a larger group, and that goes to show not only the groups but also the leaders, and then the communication to the general public,
Yeah.
and how the public can be swayed when even the leaders and of these groups can be swayed like this.
Yeah.
We have to have a
And
write-up,
it's-
and Tom, that's how you got me on this. The debates are important for the
Right.
influencers to inform the public, and the write-up of the platforms. I mean, a 30-second write-up. I agree with that statement, disagree. Agree, disagree. 1 through 10, agree or disagree. Unelected bureaucrats should not write law. Agree or disagree. And then that gets published because, you know what, the Republican Party does have the ability, and they did it to me. Right? They did it to me
Yeah.
and half a dozen other candidates I know about. They slow walk all the resources to the point where you can't possibly win your race.
Right.
I ran for state senate, and I mean, most people aren't stupid enough to do it, but I thought I'd get a fair shake, and I didn't. And our guy,
No.
Cody Rogers, didn't get a fair shake, but we learned enough of their tricks, and he had spent enough of his own money to the tune of 130,000 plus that we overcame getting outspent 5-1. But,
wait a minute. Are you saying Emerson spent $500,000?
well, no, he spent about $0, I think, of his own money, but about $500,000 came in from out-of-state and in-state groups. Yes, for him, absolutely,
$500,000?
somewhere around that
Wow.
figure. Check out the ethics report and get back to me.
So you're
It was-
talking about dark money as well in that.
All kinds of, PAC money, out-of-state money, ASA PAC. That's the PAC he gave to, funded most of his campaign. That's the PAC that
Okay.
gave to Nancy Pelosi. He maxed out to them. I think they gave to Act Blue and some others. You'd have to look at it. It's all in the
Okay.
FEC.
Well, I just
But-
want to be clear, and let's be honest with the campaign. You aren't saying that the Emerson campaign themselves spent $500,000. You're saying $500,000
was
was
spent on behalf of him.
in support of his candidacy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. To be clear, but here's my point. So he got these. I mean, and I feel like I'm having a hard time following these endorsements, but I'll leave that point aside. It seems like maybe some rogue officers of these groups made a very convincing appeal to endorse this Rhino candidate, okay, and maybe some others, and the public was fooled. I mean, many people in these groups were fooled. And my point is, we would not be fooled if we mandated these debates to get these materials. I did not get voter registration material, even though I asked. Surrogates of my campaign asked when I ran in 18 for voter registration material 14 months before I ran. We didn't get that material until 2 months before Election Day, and then when we got it, guess what happened, David? It was wrong. So I had to pay for it.
Yeah.
Then I had to wait 2 weeks to get the data I paid for from the Koch brothers.
Okay,
So
but
in any case, here's my point. The party is already doing this. They're already doing it by fiat. They're not giving the election materials to people who ask for them, and they're being gatekeepers. So we can absolutely do it out of principle if we pass the rules to do it.
But Sooner Politics came out with an endorsement in that race, right? Did that have an influence?
Listen, all endorsements have some influence.
Yes, all elections matter.
But I'm saying OK2A, Terra, TMRC, and 912, they're big groups. So is Sooner. So they had you 4 or 5 to 1 on that.
I know.
So I'm telling you, we got a razor-thin margin, and the good guy almost lost, in part because of these endorsements.
Right.
But you had Sooner Politics, and that was enough to put you over, wasn't it?
Come on. You know what I can say? We can never know. It might have been the deciding factor.
I was in there.
That's right.
We are moving so quickly down the tracks.
Are we really, Tom?
I'm just saying, I want to reset. I'm not quite sure where we are.
Let me give Don Spencer a shout out. Here's some news. This has never happened to my knowledge. I could be wrong. We made history, state history.
We did.
Cody Rogers is the only candidate I'm aware of that OK2A, or really any big group that I'm aware of, gave an endorsement to our opponent. Then they rescinded that endorsement and endorsed our candidate before the election.
That's true.
Guys,
nice. A reversal. No, I've never heard of that. I mean, I don't know that it's happened, but I've never heard of that.
So it makes Cody Rogers is also the first candidate. I'm so glad. It's such an exciting campaign to manage. I think we made history again. He's the only candidate in the history of the universe that I'm aware of to be endorsed by OK2A and OKFA, Oklahoma Firearms Association.
Yeah,
first one
in the universe.
Tom, I know you want to take us out, and I know Oldham.
Well, I just want to reset. I'm not sure where we're at. I can go all
that Illinois ruling, but no, I'm done. It's my turn now, D'Ambroso. I want you to know we were all really proud of you. You worked hard. You got
that was good stuff.
You fought in the trenches really hard to the very end. You told me you went 36 hours without sleep.
Cody did too.
Yes. Good man. Yeah. Good man. Okay.
Yeah, that was a close fight. That was awesome. I just want to try to reset. I really appreciate, for editing purposes later, I really appreciate David D'Ambroso taking time out of his election campaign schedule to show up tonight. David Van, as always, giving us the spine of the show for me to read off. And David Oldham, our constitutional expert over there. And, of course, you can find David D'Ambroso on Facebook, Dave D'Ambroso on Facebook. And David Van is from SoonerPolitics.org, David Oldham, ConstitutionalGrounds.com. And you can always catch me, Tommy McCay, on Tommy McCay Facebook and Twitter. And also I'm over there on Parler these days, Tom E. McCay on Parler. So we do, you want to move into the freedom wins in the Illinois court, Van?
It's Oldham's.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oldham, what do you got in Illinois?
Now, this is very exciting. A judge in Illinois has ruled, in Clay County, Illinois, has ruled in favor of a state rep who sued the governor that all of the governor's executive orders, all the way back to the very first one, are not lawful and do not hold force of law. The important thing about this is that the governor, normally, if you lose at that point in time, and this is a case based on the merits. This is not a case that was a temporary restraining order or any other restraining form of order.
Okay.
This was a case based on the merits. And the judge ruled that the orders are null and void, basically, in terms of holding law, which means that any actions that government has done based on those orders would have to be reversed all the way back to the very first one. So anybody arrested for disorderly conduct because they didn't obey the order would have to be released. even though that should never.
What does this mean for other states, Oldham, and even the country? Anything?
Well, and this is the exciting thing, and we have people listening from around the country on my watch party that I have going. And so what they should do is take heart in this and learn that we do need to make these appeals to the courts, that even in a lost state like Illinois, we can get justice when you make the case. Now,
Right.
the lawyer for this state representative has said that they are going to be back in court within the next 10 days to 2 weeks to argue against forced mask wearing by school children in the state. And that
Right.
order, since they have won this first order, the second one should be even easier to win, and they expect to fully win that one as well. So keep your eye on Illinois next 10
Well,
days
just
to 2 weeks. That should
Very
come out.
briefly, I have to laud this. This has got to be a piece of this wall of resistance. We have to take constant legal action against this tyranny. We need to take electoral action, get involved in races, and we need
Right.
to use our voices to speak out against violators of our rights constantly. And really, we need to set up grand juries to convict these people who have so wantonly violated our constitutional rights.
Right.
Okay. I want to give a little bit of color to this. Clay County is down in south central Illinois, south of Springfield. I
Okay.
want to say something about the politics of Illinois. We always think of it as very liberal. Okay. Chicago is. The rest of the state's very conservative. You're going to find that same thing to be true. I'm going up to Minnesota here in a couple of days. You know, Trump won 80 of the 88 counties there. You know, it's the metropolitan areas against the rest of the state. And here you had a district court judge from the county seat, Clay County, you know, and he's getting the governor to stand down.
Yeah.
God bless him.
And the
It
governor,
can happen. Yeah.
the governor would have, you would have thought the governor would have announced his appeal and asked for the appeal right then and there. That's the normal way of doing things. He did not do it, signaling that he's not going to follow up on this, and this should be the end of it. Now, he can come back and appeal. We'll have to watch it. But, and so that's
And, of course,
great
where are the
news.
judges throwing
Now,
out the governor's appeal, huh?
what's that?
Where are the judges throwing out the governor's appeal, huh?
Exactly.
Saying
Well,
you-
it could always happen. It could happen.
Yeah, but-
David, you mentioned Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
In Minnesota, there is a state senator who is also a doctor, a doctor for over 30 years, and he has been brought up on charges before the state medical board because he is questioning the medical board's requirement, or because he said things outside of what he's supposed to be letting on, and questioning their numbers and things like that. So he is now actually in danger of losing his medical license, and just came out with a YouTube video. His name's Scott Jensen. He is a doctor and state
He should have
senator
charged
from
him
Minneapolis.
first.
I'm sorry, he Jensen, where's he from?
Minnesota, but I don't know where exactly.
He
Okay.
should have brought charges first.
So,
And I believe he is the doctor that spoke of the CDC guidelines early on before Dr. Birx confirmed that the numbers are at least 25% inflated of COVID deaths.
he's
That
one of them.
he-
He's one of them.
Yeah.
See,
that's
here's the
Scott-
problem, though.
Doc-
Here's the way
Dr.
forward.
Yeah, Dr. Scott Jensen, he's actually from Chaska, just down the road from where the artist formerly known as Prince had his studio headquarters there.
Well, here's what he did wrong. I don't think he'd be under charge right now if he would have raised charges first. I mean, it's just like what happens in a domestic dispute. Whoever calls the cops first is right until well in a court, the trial.
Yeah.
Well into. The cops just treat whoever called as if they're
Yeah.
correct, even if they're totally wrong. So he should have brought
Well-
charges
Oh.
against those lawbreakers rather than
Oh.
waiting for them to bring
Well,
charges against him.
remember,
Oldham, what do you
Remember,
got?
this is all being done by a licensing board.
Yep.
You all know my feelings about licensing. This is all done extrajudicially. This is outside of any Article 3 judiciary, or the the actual judiciary. So he hasn't seen due process. He's going to be
Right.
denied the ability to work and then have to go into that
Right.
to get his due process is the way they like to
Okay.
work.
Tom, I promise I'm not jumping back to
No,
an old
that's
topic,
fine. Go for it.
an old topic. But again, remember when we talked about our Freedom Index, one of those bills that we scored that passed was giving some medical association in another state, actually in that case it was a psychiatric association, the power to determine which therapists in our state can continue to practice. Once those out-of-state organizations know they have the power, they'll come in and start dictating everything here,
Right.
and they have the power to yank your license. And that was our legislature gave that to them. By their
Selling
vote.
us out. So it's just similar to the city guy that I voted for selling my representation out to the county. The same thing here. They just sell my representation out to somebody from a different state.
Right. And Bynum did that's the same thing he was doing with this police oversight board. Bynum's always looking for somebody else to make the tough call, have the decision. He's not the guy who says the buck stops here.
Right. Dr. Dart is the guy he looks to. Should we open tomorrow? It's just really sad. I've got like 3 things. We got to tease what we're going to talk about next week. I got to say a couple of things from Tommy's Twitter Titrantrix, and then what else are we doing? And I want to thank the viewers from Facebook. So what do you guys got before we close them out? Anything else? Oldham, what do you got left over? Anything?
I think we've pretty well covered it.
Just what's coming up next week, we're going to talk about Supreme Court ruling on presidential electors.
Yep.
President. Oh, that's right, the electors. Because
And guys, those of you who are aware of and fighting this whole national popular vote, this ruling will be key in that fight. This affects numerous issues.
Right.
It's not just the electors. This affects the national popular vote and whether or not we actually retain a republic or we go flat out democracy.
Right.
Stay tuned for next week because it'll be important.
And remember, Nazi Germany was a democracy.
As was the Soviet Union.
It was.
Yeah.
They got
on the way out, I just want to say from Tommy's Titanic Twitter feed, there's a couple of things I noticed on the mask things. Tulsa World had an op-ed, refusing to wear a mask in crowded public places isn't a protected political expression, the editorial says. It's a bullheaded act of ignorance, denial, and self-possession. And in response to that, of course, I sent them the link to my new Normal song.
Yeah.
But
you sewer mouth, you.
but I want to say,
song.
thank you very much. But two people on my Twitter feed that need to be recognized, and that is Representative Anthony Sabatini. He's at Anthony Sabatini. If you are arrested or fined for not wearing a mask, call me. I will represent you for free. Also, Briscoe Kane at Briscoe Kane on Twitter. Get fined for not wearing a mask. I will gladly represent you for free. Isn't that wonderful? These people stepping
You know where they're at.
to do that. Well, you'll have to find them on Twitter. It's Briscoe Kane and Representative Anthony Sabatini, wherever he's from. And Oldham, you ought to like this. 2 Works for You decided to put out a thing that says Tulsa County District Court reminds citizens that jury service is a legal obligation and a civic duty. So I tweeted in response, and don't forget, jury nullification is always an option for unconstitutional law also. Ladies and gentlemen, that is, I hope,
remedy.
We have way more to talk about, and it happens so fast we always miss out on a lot. Never exhaustive, but always energetic. Thanks again, David D'Ambroso, David Van, David Oldham. For 3D Politics Live, I'm Tommy McCay. We will see you guys next week on Facebook right here on 3D Politics Live. That ought to do it, kiddies.